The Big WECK presents Buffalo on the Rise, sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process. Welcome to the television show devoted to local business, Buffalo on the Rise, with your host, Joe Chili. There's an entrepreneurial spirit in Western New York that's putting our area on the cusp of greatness. Each week, Buffalo on the Rise features local business leaders and decision makers who are shaping our future. If it's about local business, we'll talk about it right here, right now, during Buffalo on the Rise.
I'm Joe Chili. On this edition of the Big WECK presents Buffalo on the Rise. Having trouble getting car insurance? Remember, Willoughby will when nobody will. Find out how. There's so much going on at the Big WECK, from playing Buffalo's favorite oldies to sponsoring hometown events. Our friend JP has more. And the longtime go-to guide for what's happening in Western New York is Buffalo Spree magazine, with their companion publication for seniors, Forever Young. Find out what's inside. That's all on this edition of the Big WECK presents Buffalo on the Rise.
I'm Joe Chili. You can listen to me mornings on the Big WECK. Joining us on the Big WECK Buffalo on the Rise is Craig Willoughby from Willoughby Insurance. Craig, how you doing?
Good, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Listen to that voice. He's got those dulcet tones. Willoughby will when nobody will. I mean, it's such a great catchphrase, such a great line, and you've got some real history in the insurance business, you and your family here in the area, right?
Yeah, my grandfather, Walter Willoughby, started the agency back in 1952, over, 80 years ago, 72 years ago, I think it is. He started an insurance agency when he came back from the war. He served in World War II. He was up and posted in Niagara Falls. Came back, wanted to run his own insurance agency after working for the insurance companies, and he opened his own agency on Minnesota Avenue, right in Buffalo. He ran out of there for a few years, and then eventually he got an office on Main Street near Minnesota, and then he moved to Maine and Michigan. And then about 46 years ago, we moved over to Maine and Ferry, where we've been for the last 45 years. My father took over after my grandfather, I took over after my father, and now we're here, 3 generations deep.
So, I mean, what kind of a discussion did you have? Your father say, hey, we got a business here that we'd like you to take over, and you said, well, I don't know, I might want to do.
I despised the business growing up.
Come on.
Back in the 80s, everyone was chain smoking. There was ashtrays on every desk. There's no windows in that place. Paper files, you got paper cuts all over your finger, phones nonstop ringing. It was crazy. I said, I'm never going to work here. I refused to. Went to college, got a girlfriend in college, brought her home, didn't know what I wanted to do. Went to work for my dad for a little bit to try to figure it out and move on. And just one thing fell into place, and I landed at Willoughby.
So how long have you been doing this now?
This is about my 25th year.
Really?
Yeah.
Still the same girl?
Hell no. No, we...
All right, you don't have to explain. Yeah. I don't want to get you in trouble. You don't have to square everybody. All right, you're an independent insurance agency. What does that mean?
So as an independent agent, we represent over 15 different insurance companies. So when you call Willoughby, I'm going to shop you through 15 different carriers, if not multiple others, through different channels, and I'm going to find you the best rate based off of who you are and what your variables are. So if you got a speeding ticket, if you had a suspension, if you got a lapse, if you got a perfectly clean record and you live in the suburbs, it doesn't matter who you are. I got carriers that are going to fit everyone. So when you call Willoughby, there's a whole array of carriers that are going to find you the best rate that fits you personally.
So has everybody's rate gone up this year?
Oh, and it's going to go up again next year.
Really?
Guaranteed.
You know, and the other weird thing, there's a new policy or something, an add-on to the policy, I think, in New York State, which is the
supplemental spousal liability.
So what is this?
So supplemental spousal liability has been around forever. It's just what it honestly is, I hate saying it, it's New York State taking care of its consumers. New York State is a consumer-oriented state. As the consumer, as a New York taxpayer, you're extremely well protected, and especially when it comes to insurance. It's just like, as a New York State resident, if you have basic liability coverage in New York State, you automatically have rental car liability coverage covered in any one of the 50 states, Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico. They're doing the same thing with supplemental spousal liability. It's a coverage that's always been around, but a lot of people just don't know about. Now they're making you sign off on it so that you know. Supplemental spousal liability is so that when my wife and I are driving in a car, I get into an accident, I'm at fault. She gets hurt, I get hurt. Insurance is covering my medical bills. I get sued, insurance covers it. She gets hurt, she can't sue me. There's tort law against that. What supplemental spousal liability is, she can sue my insurance policy and get paid for her pain and suffering that I caused as the driver of the vehicle. She can't sue the other guy, I was at fault when I was driving, but she can sue my policy and get reimbursed for pain, pain and suffering that way.
She's probably going to sue you too for that girl that you went out with in high school you don't want to talk about anymore. All right, well, there are challenges that people face. I mean, when I was growing up, and I'm a lot older than you, but when I was growing up, it was, risk pools for people that, were 18, 16, 17, 18, 19, things like that. Is that a big issue now? Is it tough for a young individual to get insurance?
So the risk pool has made an enormous comeback. I am one of the largest writers of the risk pool in New York State. I've always been. That's where Willoughby Will When Nobody Will came from. When you couldn't get insurance, Willoughby could always get you the risk pool no matter what. We took a niche and we ran with it. For the last 10 years, they've been trying to depopulate the risk pool because it's a state-funded insurance operation. So they've raised the rates in the risk pool, and they called all the other carriers and told them, the Geicos, the Progressives, the Liberty, they said, you got to take risk. You got to take the young kids. You got to take this. You got to accept that. And you got to give a good rate for them. And they did. And they all took it on. The pool has been depopulated like crazy. They started laying off all their staff in the risk pool. And then inflation hit. And when inflation hit, it now costs more than 3 times the amount 2 years ago to fix a car. Your standard fender bender in New York State 2 years ago was about $4,200 and 3 days in the garage, and you were back in the car on Monday, 3 days later. Mm-hmm. Today, it's over $12,000 and over 30 days in the garage, waiting to get repaired, loaner cars, waiting for parts coming from overseas, chip delays. It's absurd. These carriers are getting beaten up, and they can't charge the Geico, Progressive, Liberties, all your preferred carriers. They can't charge 3 times as much rate. The state won't allow them to. They're taking incremental rate increases of 6, 8, 10, 12% at a time, and they keep applying for more, and they keep getting them. I got an email. My largest carrier, Progressive, is going up on September 22nd, in 2 days. They're taking another rate increase. They just keep filing and keep getting them. They can't raise their rates fast enough to get to the point where they're profitable again. They're losing money, they're all bleeding, and they all stop taking business. Every one of them. They're blocking as much business as they can block right now, and they're all calling me, and I'm putting them all in the risk pool. I've written over $5 million in the risk pool year to date. It's absurd how much money I put into that risk pool in premium because no one else will take them right now. Nobody else wants them. If you don't have prior insurance, if you got one accident, 95%, 97% of the market won't even answer your phone call.
All right, we've got about a minute left in this segment. You're promoting the Willoughby Challenge. What exactly is that?
Challenge me to shop your rate and find you a better rate than everyone else out there.
So people should give you a call.
Oh, it's worth the call. I'm going to do my best for you. If I can't beat you this time, I'll get a better rate for you hopefully in 6 months or a year from now when you call back. I got so many carriers. I got the risk pool, which 99% of the market doesn't have. I can get you coverage, usually at a better rate than what you got. Not always, but usually.
Willoughby will when nobody will.
One of those few guarantees you're going to get in life.
Craig Willoughby, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For more information and answers to your questions, contact Willoughby Insurance by calling 716-885-8100 or go to willoughbyinsurance.com. Sponsorship and promotional consideration for the preceding segment was provided by the following. I'm Joe Chili. You can listen to me mornings on the Big Weck. Joining us today on the Big Weck Buffalo on the Rise is JP, the program director of the Big Weck and also the midday personality. JP, great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Joe. It's great to see you.
Thanks for joining us. We talk about playing the coolest oldies ever made.
That's right.
How do you define a cool oldie?
Those songs that stand the test of time. For instance, I'll give you an example. Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. It's over 50 years old. It's still their encore song because fans have loved it for that long. It's still the big song. For me, one of the coolest guitar riffs of all time was Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good. Sounded cool in 1957. It sounds cool today. So that's kind of our mantra, playing the coolest oldies ever made.
You know, the interesting thing about that, because I know you're a big Beatles fan, and the Beatles were influenced by some of these people as well, you know, like Chuck Berry, and right?
Exactly. The bands and the artists that we play on WEC stand on the shoulders of that first class of Hall of Famers, if you will. Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and then on from there. And yeah, the Beatles were very influenced by them, and it moved into the late 60s, into psychedelic, early 1970s. That's the beauty part of the Big WEC. And you know, because you are our Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Fame morning man, that we play the singer-songwriters, James Taylor, Simon and Garfunkel, Motown, the Temptations, the Supremes, the Four Tops, the British Invasion, the Beatles, the Kinks. So it's all together, these cool oldies on one radio station.
You made a good point, and as we were talking before we came on TV today, one of the things that you said is some stations play the music we play as spice.
Yep.
You know, just, you know, every once in a while you hear a song and they go, oh yeah, good old day, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
That is the bread and butter of what we do, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. And you know, there are other outlets that will play those and designate them to, you know, heritage or whatever. They are the core of our format because we owe it to those, as I say, those pioneers that we pay tribute to every day, and then move forward. It's the reason that we are in this business. It's the music that we grew up with. And the cool thing about the Big WEC is it's radio that we grew up with. We grew up listening to stations that would play Engelbert Humperdinck, followed by Steppenwolf. You remember?
Right.
And Supremes, followed by, you know, Beatles. It would all be these hit records together. It was the top 40. It was the best hits. And that's what we give our very loyal listeners on the Big WEC.
And another thing that's great, that I think personally is great, is all the Buffalo-born broadcasters.
Yeah.
And you talk about Hall of Famers. I mean, I'm very pleased to be a Hall of Famer, but we've got lots of them on the station.
I'm surrounded by Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Famers. We just, most recently, Tom Donahue retired from the Big WEC, a Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Famer. We have Roger Christian, a nighttime Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Famer from 7 until 10 o'clock. A couple of young guys who get it, who are really, really talented and understand the music, and that's Dan Rinelli, 3 to 7 every afternoon, and Bobby Rosati, Junior Rosati from, and I know you love him too. He's
a great
he's
guy.
Our production guy. We just have such a great team. Our assistant program director, Glenn Topolsky. We have a cool team of local people serving the Buffalo market and online, of course, around the world with the coolest oldies ever made. I'm real excited to be here.
I understand that now, and excited still.
Yeah.
After, can I mention, 47 years?
Yeah, I started when I was 5.
So 47 years in the business, which is fantastic. And during that time, it's kind of come full circle for you, right?
Yeah, well, yes. And one of the cool things, you know, we use that word cool a lot. It's never gotten old, that word cool. We worked for a CEO by the name of Buddy Shula. Buddy Shula in 1982 was my intern. And we taught him radio back in the day, and it's come full circle that now we're working for him, and it's one big team effort, and everything's going really, really well. Ratings are saying. Can I talk about ratings? Can you do
sure.
that? Is that okay to do?
I think you can mention ratings.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now.
Well, we're very, very fortunate that people have embraced the Big WEC and the coolest oldies ever made, and they're gravitating to us more and more, and we really, really appreciate that. And I wanted to get that out and thank our listeners.
You know, when I think of us, I think of the top 40 radio stations of yesterday.
Yeah.
How would you, define that to people? I mean, we're old school. We understand it.
Yeah.
How would you kind of bring that across to people? I mean, and what we're doing today?
One of the things I told our guys, you were in that meeting, is back in the day, WYSL was big-time top 40 radio station. I know that you worked there back in the day. And they were a little 1,000-watt radio station going against these big 50,000-watt radio stations. But they had the right format. They had the right people. They had the right music. That's what we have now. I look at us as this era's whistle radio,
Yeah.
if you will, with the music that we play. It's local guys, and we're just having a lot of fun. That's what I've told everybody when we first signed on, and I've been at the Big WECK about 6 months. And I said, we're just here to have some fun. We're playing music that we grew up with to listeners who grew up with this, the soundtrack to their lives, and people are having a lot of fun doing it.
And JP, in our final minute,
yes,
tell us about Big WECK 2.
Big WECK 2 is our listeners, our very loyal listeners, have asked for maybe an alternative, maybe some B-sides, songs outside the box, no rules radio, if you will, and we're doing that on bigweck.com. We have an app that you can reach as well. Big WECK 2. Go to our website, which is bigweck.com, and check it out. We've got 24/7 traditional Christmas music that we all grew up with, commercial free. We'll start that on November the 1st. And then people have asked if I'm bringing Beatles A to Z, something I've been doing in this market for 30 years, day after Thanksgiving. That's going to be on Big WECK 2. And then after Christmas, a listening experience for our listeners like has never been done here in this market.
And Halloween music right now.
And we have Halloween music going on right now at bigweck.com. You can reach Big WECK 2.
Great, JP, thank you.
Thank
For
you.
more information and answers to your questions, contact the Big WECK 2 online at bigweck.com and click on the Big WECK 2 link.
Sponsorship and promotional consideration for the preceding segment was provided by the following.
I'm Joe Chili. Joining us on the Big WECK Buffalo on the Rise is Sabrina Coati, who's the executive editor of Buffalo Spree. Sabrina, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Now listen, Buffalo Spree's been around how many years?
57. We are in our 57th year.
You know, God love you, you don't look a day over 20.
Oh, thank you so much.
You know, so that's, but 57 years, still going strong. It's kind of hard to believe. What are some of the things, some of the most memorable things that you think of in the 57 years or in the time that you've been there? Because you've gotten numerous awards for things too, right?
Yes. 57 years is a long time. And while I have not personally been there for all 57 of them, there have been lots of memorable moments even in my time with the company. I started with Spree pretty still in the depths of the pandemic. So I was a remote hire and we still work remotely. So some of the most exciting things for me were when things started to come back that were staples, things Spree was known for, like the Best of Western New York party, the Forever Young Expo. When those events started to come back in person, that was pretty exciting.
Where did the name, I don't want to catch you off guard here, but do you know where the name Buffalo Spree came from?
That is
You
something.
don't? Is that a mystery?
Well, I'm sure there's someone who knows.
It's probably like, you know, chef's sauce or something. You know, they won't tell you what the secret is inside of it. It's a big secret. But you know, Buffalo Spree has always been very big in the community itself, right? Some of the things that you do in the community and some of the things that maybe we could look forward to.
Sure. So we have our flagship publication, Buffalo Spree Magazine. That's published 10 times a year. But what some people may not know is we also publish Forever Young, which is something we talk about on WECK, which is our publication for mature adults, the senior community. But we also publish program books and playbills for performing arts venues in Western New York and beyond. So we're very involved in the community. We like to sponsor events, donate. So Buffalo Spree is really, we want to be part of the community, not just a resource for it.
And what's Buffalo Spree like on the inside? Is it like one big happy family?
Yes.
It is?
Yes, we are a small company. I think that some people might be surprised to know how small the team actually is. So it's a lot of people working really hard and just by the nature of it, working very closely together to get a lot of things done. So we gotta work together all the time.
You said that you kind of started during COVID, right? So what was the biggest surprise for you or the biggest change when you started going into the office? Did it make you feel uncomfortable?
So I don't go into the office daily. Most of our team still works remotely. We have some people who are in the office every day, but other than that, I go in for meetings. I go in, we have all staff meetings where everyone comes together, or if we're conducting interviews or business meetings like that, we'll go in. But I do work from home most of the time.
When you start looking for topics for Buffalo Spree or Forever Young, for whatever it might be, is there like a roundtable discussion that you have, or is it something that you just kind of pick up on your own?
So I do not come up with all the content by myself. I would be shocked if any editor in the world does, because one of my favorite quotes, and I of course can't remember who said it right now, is that being a leader isn't having all the right ideas, it's just having the brains to know when you hear the right one. So I come up with ideas for stories, of course, but my editorial team, my freelance writers, and the community, honestly. I get lots of emails from readers, from Western New York community members telling me, hey, here is something awesome that you should know about and you should cover.
How difficult is it to tell somebody, if they come up to you with an idea, they think it's great, for you to say, I don't know?
Well, I don't like disappointing people. I mean, who does? But the thing is, if something is not a fit for us, usually I can explain why, so at least the person knows it's not just that I didn't like their idea. But most of the time, it's not that something isn't a fit, it's that we work about 2 months ahead. So sometimes by the time someone brings an idea to me, our content is already determined for that month and we're working on the next one. So I'll put it in my file of potential stories and I'll tell them, thank you for sending this, I've got it on file, and I'll circle back when I can.
So Sabrina travels into the future every day. She's a future traveler.
Christmas in my mind.
Yeah, is it difficult to really bring yourself back and say, what is today?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I would imagine it would if you're working like that, if you're recording or if you're writing or whatever in advance. Is there one thing that you're most proud of in the time that you've been there?
Oh gosh, I'm really proud of a lot of things, but I am especially proud of a couple new columns we've introduced. There's one called Working Together that focuses on different organizations in the community that are working to bring about positive change. So it's really great to highlight those. We also have a column called We Knew Them When, which highlights expats from the area, so people who grew up here but are now not living here anymore, but they're out doing awesome things. So those are two new columns that have started since I've been executive editor. Both were suggested by freelancers or members of the editorial team, and so I was proud we were able to bring them to fruition. You
know, you've gotten some awards too, local awards, national awards, things like this. What kind of awards has Buffalo Spree gotten?
So Spree's been recognized as a company with more than 75 awards from the National Association of Mature Publishers and also the City and Regional Magazine Association. And those awards have been for editorial content, design, and also 3 awards in general excellence.
And do you have them framed in your office?
At the office, not at my home office.
Not at
the
home.
Buffalo Spree office,
yeah.
Yes.
Hey, if you want to see the awards, come on by Sabrina's house. We'll show you where we have this entire room of just awards. I think that's just awesome. And anything that we should be looking out for in the not too distant future?
Well, we're bringing, like I said, our events are all back, so we are planning for our Forever Young Expo, which we're really excited about. We do our annual surveys, the Forever Young Faves and the Best of Western New York Awards, so always be on the lookout for those, because without people to vote, the awards don't exist, and we've been very gratified by people's participation.
Sabrina Kawadi, thank you so much for joining us. It's been very intellectual, very informative, let's put it that way.
Well, thank you.
You always do a great job. For more information and answers to your questions, contact Buffalo Spree by calling 716-783-9119 or go to buffalospree.com.
Sponsorship and promotional consideration for the preceding segment was provided by the following. Thanks for watching this edition of the Big Weck presents Buffalo on the Rise. For information on this and other shows, go to our website, bigweck.com, and find out how you can participate on the program if you're a hometown business. I'm Joe Chili. Thanks for watching and listening to the Big Weck, Buffalo's oldie station.
The Big Weck presents Buffalo on the Rise was sponsored by Dr. Kaplansky Dental Implants. Get new permanent teeth in 24 hours with our exclusive Teeth Now process.